Hello, it's Wednesday, August 12th, and this is the New Arab Weekly podcast from the New Arab in London. Each week we look at the biggest stories from the week and ask what happened and what does it all mean. This week, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan sign up to a military throuple. Netanyahu tells Trump, no thanks, I'll stick to the genocide. And Houthis ramp up efforts in Yemen to make a terrible situation worse. Joining us to unpack the last 7 days, we have Nadaa Osman.
Hello.
And Taufiq.
Hello.
On with the show. Taufiq, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan got together recently for a classic sign an agreement and hold it up to the camera photo opportunity. It's called the Mecca Joint Defence Agreement. But in more detail, what is it and how did we get here?
So among all the details, which we don't have many at the moment, the key thing that stands out is what Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has pointed out, in which he's compared the Clause 5 of NATO, which is essentially a mutual defence pact. An attack on one is an attack on all. And he's compared this new pact to that NATO has.
Okay.
But what's more interesting is how we got here.
Right.
So in this post-October 7th environment that we're in, the world watched Israel commit genocide in Gaza, including the regional players. Yeah. They all just kind of sat back and watched this macabre spectacle happen. Israel also waged war on its neighbors, on Lebanon, on Syria. It also bombed Qatar.
Yeah.
They bombed the Houthis in Yemen. So essentially, the United States allowed Israel to do as it pleases, as it pleased for quite a while. Then we had Israel drawing the US into its war on Iran, which came after decades of lobbying by Netanyahu. And this war on Iran, this exposed key players in the region, including Saudi Arabia, to direct attacks from Iran. And what we saw also was drone attacks on Dubai. Yeah. We saw other areas of the Emirates being attacked. These are things that were unprecedented before the US-Israeli attack on Iran. And behind all this was the assumption or the agreement that the US was the security guarantor.
That was the idea, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was the idea. We have the US has their bases in the region, and we enjoy the security. But that didn't seem to play out.
Clearly.
America seemed to prioritize Israel's security over that of the Gulf states. And Israel has been seen to do as it likes, both in the negotiations and on the battlefield. So when it doesn't like something in Gaza, the US will acquiesce. Yeah. And when it wants to attack, let's say, Lebanon, it will just do as it pleases. So this has kind of crumbled this understanding that was in place.
The illusion is over, isn't it?
The illusion's over. And also with that illusion were several key factors of the US vision for the region. So the first of that was, let's say, the containment of Iran. Yeah. By attacking Iran, the US and Israel essentially unleashed Tehran onto its neighbors. As we said, Saudi Arabia got attacked, UAE got attacked, Qatar got caught in that as well. And the second plank of that would be the two-state solution. Yeah. Israel has kicked that further into the ditch, and it's allowing the settlers to rampage across the West Bank. And nobody who is being serious at the moment is talking about a two-state solution now. No. And leading on from that is Israel normalization, which we saw sidelined in the nuclear talks between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Yeah. So what was once a key facet of the basket of demands that Washington had was cast aside. So now that all these assumptions and the vision that the United States had have come crumbling, a new kind of alignment has emerged.
Yeah. I remember the talks before October 7th, like the week before October 7th, between the US and Saudi Arabia, were all about nuclear deals and the possibility of normalization, which obviously went away very quickly. Currently, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan, those are the three for now, but might there be more? Is there an open door policy? Can more join?
So again, Turkey seems to have been the most vocal about what their plans are for this pact. Right. And again, Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has said that Egypt will be a natural partner to join the three states already in it.
That's nice, huh?
Now, what we don't know is why Egypt didn't join, whether they were shunned or whether they chose not to join in this defense pact.
Ooh.
There's sources who've been telling news outlets that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is not too happy with Abdul Fattah Sisi.
No, who is?
And and essentially, from having backed him previously in the early years of his presidency, they're seeing diminishing returns. Maybe they expected support in the Red Sea, where the Saudis are getting attacked by the Houthis.
Yeah.
So that's one side. On the other side, there were reports coming from Egyptian sources claiming that actually Egypt didn't want to straitjacket itself into a kind of defense pact with these three countries when it has its own alliances, let's say with the United Arab Emirates, who are not on the best terms with Saudi Arabia at the moment.
No.
And Cairo wanted to have more of a flexible foreign policy.
Yeah, it's understandable. You're a professional. We're all professionals here. In your professional opinion, what do you think it is?
From the reporting I've read, you'd think that Egypt would enjoy the economic benefits that would come from a pact like this.
They need money.
They do need
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just got 1.8 billion from the IMF, I think.
yeah.
So
Yeah. So essentially, it's a bit out of character for them to turn it down, which makes me think that maybe Saudi Arabia doesn't want them in it for the moment.
Right. It can't really be avoided. This is all happening during a war. The war in Iran, with Iran, against Iran, is still sort of rumbling along in the background of the region, but also quite loudly. Saudi Arabia, as we mentioned, has been involved in this war, certainly a lot more than either Pakistan or Turkey. How might this agreement affect the war? Is this effectively going to be an coalition against Iran?
Well, Turkey has said explicitly that this isn't an anti-Iran coalition. But of course, we can't just take that as at face value. We have to look at the realities.
Yeah.
Turkey shares a border with Iran.
Yeah.
And they do have good ties with Tehran. And they tried to advise Iran out of escalating this war with Israel and the US. So I don't think it would be in Turkey's interest to now draw itself into potential conflict with Tehran. Pakistan also shares a border with Iran.
Iran borders a lot of countries.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And Pakistan, despite its military might, it does have some problems with Afghanistan, with the Taliban government in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And of course, the intermittent flaring up of tensions with India. So I don't think it would be in their interest to now have a kind of bellicose stance towards Iran. And also, let's not forget, Pakistan is one of the key mediators in the talks.
True. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
For Saudi Arabia, who you could argue has been most affected by the regional war that's gone on, this effectively could act as an extra layer of protection to what it already has. Well, the US layer has failed.
Yeah.
So this is like another layer of protection. Whether it works out, whether you will actually see countries attacking Iran in response to attacks on Saudi Arabia, most people are saying probably not.
Right.
But essentially, they're posturing that we're ready.
Okay.
And these are all like Muslim majority countries that are involved in this pact, but they're also different in their own individual ways. So what is each country actually bringing forward to this?
Let's start with Pakistan. It has a military of over 600,000 active service members.
That's a lot.
A lot of. I think it's the biggest in this tripartite agreement.
Yeah.
Pakistan also has a nuclear bomb. It's the
They're
only Muslim majority country to possess this capability. At the same time, Pakistan is in need of investment and in need of funds.
Yeah.
So that's where the other players kind of come in. Turkey, again, strong military, member of NATO.
That's important.
Which is very important. I think it has the second largest active service personnel of the three.
Yeah.
So after Pakistan. Also a lot of combat experience on their side.
Yeah.
Turkey has a growing and booming domestic defense industry, particularly selling drones.
Yeah, the Bayraktar.
That's right.
The Bayraktar TB2. Yeah. Favorite of the Ukrainians.
And markets like Saudi Arabia would certainly benefit from this kind of production. So Turkey not only brings their expertise, but they can gain from being able to sell their wares.
Yeah.
And then we have Saudi Arabia, which goes without saying has its huge oil wealth. It's looking to invest and it's looking for expertise from other countries. To diversify its economy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to overstate or understate the soft power factor of Saudi Arabia as being the geographical center of the Muslim world. Obviously, this agreement was signed on a Friday in the holy city of Mecca, which geopolitically isn't important. There's no, it is not a center of government for the Saudis, but the symbolism for them of being there, signing this agreement, naming it after the city, and then joining together for prayers after.
It's potent.
It's potent imagery.
It's incredibly potent, yeah.
And
particularly for audiences back home in those countries, it will be as well.
Precisely. Yeah. And I think, especially in countries like Pakistan, I'm not saying this is the main thrust of why they were there, but remember, this is the Pakistani government which is holding Imran Khan in prison, former prime minister, who is still hugely popular in the Muslim world.
Yeah, very good cricketer as well.
Very good cricketer. And that imagery of seeing Shahbaz Sharif, Asim Munir, Mohammed bin Salman, and Erdogan, who in his own right has carved out this niche of being a Muslim leader.
Yeah.
I don't think that was lost on the Pakistani leadership, who have been angling to position themselves as world statesmen who are involved in mediation and diplomacy.
Yeah. I'm sure there's been some response to this. So what has been the response internationally, regionally? Maybe let's sort of start closer to home in the region. What's the regional response been to this?
First of all, Iran's response has been to say the quiet part out loud, which is that this is a response to the United States' failure to provide security for its allies in the region.
Yeah.
This hasn't come from any of the three countries, but Iran has said it.
They're not completely unwrong, are they?
They're not. No, they're not. And they also said they're not concerned. They're not concerned by it. This sentiment has been echoed in the Chinese media, not by the Chinese government, but state media have been saying, this is a failure of U.S. security plans.
Yeah.
Israel's government has mostly been silent on this, save the heritage minister, Amichai Chikli, who said that this is a kind of Sunni alliance in which Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia are threatening Israel.
Yeah.
And
who isn't threatening Israel, though, according to the Israeli government?
Another on the long list. So he called for another axis comprising Israel, the UAE, Cyprus, Greece, and Somaliland to counter this new Sunni.
Great, all the powerhouses,
axis.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yep. The US so far hasn't said anything about this new alliance.
That's strange of them.
Which is surprising because their president is not known for being quiet.
He is certainly not.
Yeah. And on social media, we've had a back and forth between former Emirati officials and a Saudi prince and other Saudi former officials over the reason why this deal came out. And, you had Emiratis asking what was the need for it. Saudis responding with the usual insult that comes out in these slinging matches, which is that you normalize with Israel and you betrayed your Arab and Muslim brethren. Yeah.
Well, we'll watch that one play out geopolitically and on social media. Thank you, Taufiq.
Well.
Would you like to hear a fact?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, please.
We didn't sound too eager, but let's hear it.
This week, in 1648, Mehmed IV succeeded Ibrahim I as the Ottoman Sultan. Did you enjoy that?
Very much so.
Great.
We'll have another one of those next week. For our second story, the Gaza ceasefire deal is back in the news. It sort of kicked off again, Nadaa, with recent headlines that Hamas had agreed to disarm. Why? What was the reasoning behind this, do we think? And why did they actually agree to do this?
So let's have a look at some background.
Always good.
This is all part of a 15-point proposal that was announced by Trump around a week ago. Hamas has already endorsed it, and this all comes after the US Board of Peace and the International Stabilization Force in Gaza announced that mediators had finalized a roadmap for this next phase of the ceasefire. Trump has taken to Truth Social, and he called it a monumental step towards lasting peace and security. So generally, this plan says that Hamas is going to start disarming, and at the exact same time, Israel will start to withdraw, and this whole process will be completed in stages.
But they will disarm and withdraw at the same time.
Exactly, yes. Eventually, the plan states that the International Stabilization Force will work with a new Palestinian police force and take responsibility for Gaza.
Right.
But in terms of Hamas actually disarming, the group confirmed that they're ready to go ahead with it completely, but this is all dependent on the creation of a Palestinian state and Israel's withdrawal. So essentially what they've done here is put the ball in Israel's court.
Yeah.
They said that they're going to hold on to their weapons until Israel stops its attacks and honours the truce agreement.
Which they have not.
Exactly. It's worth noting here. Yeah, it's worth noting that since the ceasefire in October, Israel has continued on with daily attacks, killing over 1,000 Palestinians. Not much has changed in terms of demolitions and things like that.
The aid isn't still getting it.
Exactly. The move from Hamas has actually been quite calculated as well, because what they've done here again is given Israel no more excuses to stay in Gaza, because from the start, Israel has always said that their main sticking point is Hamas having arms. And now Hamas has said that we're willing to disarm. They have no more excuses left. But if we were to look at why Hamas has actually decided to disarm, it's probably a move to increase the external pressure on Israel. Gaza has been out of headlines for quite a few months now. Since the ceasefire, the killings every day, they're not really making headlines so much. So this is kind of a very thoughtful and calculated move to get Gaza back into the headlines.
Quite shrewd, I think.
Yeah.
A very shrewd move by them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hamas have agreed. Following the terms of the deal, simultaneously Israel should be withdrawing. I'm guessing they're not doing that because I've got a shrewd picture of what Israel is and who they are. So what have they said?
Well, Israel has obviously rejected the 15-point plan, as a lot of people would expect. They had around a week of silence, and then Netanyahu came out and said, we're not withdrawing unless Hamas disarms immediately. He said that Hamas must give up all of its weapons straight away. And this is something that even members of the Board of Peace have said is not, realistic. It's not achievable at all. To quote Netanyahu, he said that we will not carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is genuinely disarmed and will continue to thwart threats against our forces and our citizens. So it's become clear here that Netanyahu is someone who just doesn't want peace. We've seen this time and time again because he has received assurances that Hamas would hand over its weapons previously, and has still continued to, continue with the attacks and refusing to pull out. Hamas, on the other hand, they've reiterated that they are committed to the roadmap published by Trump's Board of Peace. And we've got other ministers, far-right ministers like Ben-Gvir saying that this proposal is unacceptable and, they're not happy with it. So... Yeah, it's the same old story.
It can't be denied, in Israel, on the horizon, is the looming spectre of national elections. Things look tight for Netanyahu. Polling suggests it might not be all going his way. Do we think that there's a sense that the recent statements regarding the ceasefire deal are sort of more geared towards election posturing?
Definitely. Netanyahu at the moment is deeply, deeply unpopular. He's been doing anything to try and stay in power. He's been doing anything to convince people of his actions for quite a few years. He's also under a lot of pressure from the right because they don't want this pullout from Gaza at all. If anything, they want more settlements there. And if we look at polls, for example, there's one by the Israeli Channel 12 that says 62% of people believe Israel will never achieve total victory in Gaza. And there's also
That's not good.
No, and there's also
For them.
63% of people believe it's Trump that is setting Israel's security policy, which shows very little faith in Netanyahu. There's also been, over the past few years, these large and very fierce protests against Netanyahu, even outside his home. He's had various corruption scandals. Since the start of the war on Gaza, he's not fulfilled any of his stated aims, which is a huge setback for him, and it's caused a lot of anger. So he's now in this tricky position where he's trying to, appeal to Israelis and convince them of his actions. But at the same time, he needs to not anger Trump.
He's really running on a campaign of failed and broken promises.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is Hamas agreeing to disarm? Is that really a historical breakthrough?
I think it's significant for sure. Calling it a breakthrough, I think it's still too early to tell. We need to keep in mind that there are actually other armed groups and militias in Gaza. It's not just Hamas. And Israel might use this as an excuse to then stay into the enclave and continue on with their attacks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them.
No.
We've also seen a lot of analysts say that because Trump says things and doesn't follow through or makes bold statements that are actually empty, again, it's just too early to tell.
It's a shocking accusation to the level of the president.
There are also a lot of questions, like we have, who's going to control Gaza after, and whose interests will they serve? Will it be the actual Palestinians or not? So it's very early to tell.
Okay. We've heard what the Israelis said. We've heard what what Hamas have said. What's been the US response to Israel's announcement that, the peace deal, they don't care about it, they're not going to withdraw? It's a bit of kick in the teeth for Donald Trump's darling peace child.
Yeah, well, Israel actually said that they're going to bring up their grievances with the US, but Trump has actually praised Hamas for agreeing to disarm, and he's called it, like we said, a historic breakthrough and a step towards peace and all of this sort of stuff. But what's interesting is that there's been a few reports that say a senior US official said that the White House doesn't actually care about these statements from Netanyahu and him rejecting the proposal, because they understand that he's got an election essentially coming up and he's trying to save himself. So a US official was reported as saying, "We understand Bibi's political needs. We have no problem with it as long as he continues to do what we ask, especially regarding restraining attacks in Gaza." So this bromance is definitely, I would call it a toxic relationship, to be honest. It's a very toxic relationship, but it's still alive. Netanyahu praises Trump. Recently in a cabinet meeting, he called him the greatest of our friends in the White House. But he also said that Israel knows how to stand firm against unacceptable ideas.
Thank you very much, Nadaa.
Now, Hugo, the region has been mainly focused on Iran and Lebanon to a certain extent. But now the Houthis in Yemen have reignited the conflict. What's been happening?
Escalation has been happening in Yemen. So on Thursday, August 6th, last Thursday, the Houthis launched a drone and missile attack against government troops. It was notable by the scale of casualties. 58 government troops were killed. It happened, they attacked military positions in Marib and Hadramaut. For context, this was one of the deadliest days of the country's civil war in the past 4 years. 58 soldiers killed in a single day is a lot. They went on to then sort of escalate even further with direct attacks on Saudi Arabia. This was also on the 6th when they struck the Saudi Arabia's southern area of Najran region. This injured 11 civilians, Saudi, including a 4-year-old child, and was sort of marked a resumption of direct attacks against Saudi Arabia. August 7th, which was the next day, they struck again, killing 10 in the Marib region. And then on the 9th, on the Sunday, they struck Saudi Arabia again, this time targeting an oil facility on the Red Coast, Saudi Arabia's Red Coast. It was an Aramco refinery in Jazan, hit it with a drone, which they said was in response to Saudi drone incursions into northwestern Yemen. It's not the first time they've targeted that facility, struck it previously in July. Now, it's worth pointing out that this isn't an exhaustive list of all of the recent Houthi attacks of the past week. But to give you an idea, they have been escalating things inside Yemen and with their neighbours quite dramatically.
How did the government respond?
On the day after the initial attack that killed 58 soldiers, so on the 7th of August, government-aligned forces from the Mecca Defence Forces attacked southern Marib, killing 2 Houthi fighters, it was reported. On the 8th, so 2 days after the initial attack, government forces launched several attacks on several Houthi positions, although they did not announce or say which positions were struck or provide any details on casualty figures.
Why is this all happening now?
It can't be ignored. I think that the Houthis are backed by Iran and they are supportive of Iran. So part of this is about the war in Iran. They launched their own blockade of Saudi ports in the Red Sea in July, at the end of July. So as we've had an effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, on the other side, we've now got a blockade in the Red Sea. It's a simple attempt to put more pressure, particularly on the US, but also on Tehran, strengthen Tehran's position during this war. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has been incredibly effective. Yeah. I think it's no understatement to make. It's really damaged the US, their position and their credibility. To close the other strait in the Red Sea makes the situation even worse. It also makes it bad for Saudi Arabia, which has managed to avoid most of the business in the Strait of Hormuz by using the Red Sea ports. It's another way to make the whole war more expensive for their enemies. And, it's a logical step.
It seems to be working as well.
It does seem to be working. I think that's certainly one part of it in support of Iran. There are also internal considerations, I think, for the Houthis. When they launched their initial attack on August 6th, their reasoning was, they said, we're attacking now because government forces are preparing and assembling an attack against us. There are indications that this was true, that this was the intention of the government forces. They were preparing to attack the Houthis. We've had tit-for-tat strikes between the Houthis, and the Saudis and government forces, for months now. It's not been an all-out war between them, but there've been tit-for-tat things. Back in the start of July, we had an Iranian plane come in from Iran to Sana'a. They were going to pick up a Houthi delegation to go to the funeral of Khamenei. Now, that plane came in without the approval of the internationally recognized government of Yemen, which then prompted Saudi Arabia to prevent it from landing. Missiles were fired. It all ended in tears, effectively. It would seem that sort of with this major escalation, the Houthis have decided that there was an attack coming from either the Saudis or the internationally backed government or recognized government, or both, and decided we're not going to be attacked on their timetable, we're going to attack them on our timetable and seize the initiative.
We spoke earlier about the Mecca Joint Defence Pact. So with the Houthis directly attacking Saudi Arabia, are we going to see Pakistan and Turkey now go against the Houthis?
I doubt it. I think with that pact, what we could see is them providing support, I would imagine. I think that's a general idea. It, maybe material support in terms of they could provide Saudi Arabia with, Turkey might start providing drones to be used against the Houthis in Yemen. That's possible, maybe. I think the strongest indication is you'll get a lot of diplomatic support. So diplomatically, Pakistan and Turkey would come out in support of any Saudi action in Yemen, particularly if Saudi Arabia is being attacked. It does seem more and more likely that Saudi Arabia is going to get involved more heavily in Yemen again. They were previously there, and it didn't really work out too well for them. It was a key aim at one time for MBS to get Saudi Arabia out of Yemen. He just wanted done with it. He wanted it over.
It dragged on for a long time.
It dragged on for a long time. They couldn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. It was a real pain for him, and he wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And they did. We had a ceasefire deal in 2022. Ceasefire deal, effectively in inverted commas. But I would imagine that sort of if or when, probably more accurately, Saudi Arabia do re-enter, they probably will do things differently. You would hope that they've learnt the mistakes of the past and they won't make the same mistakes that they did then, which tragically involved a lot of civilian casualties.
Yeah.
Things are different now also on the ground in Yemen. At the beginning of the year, the Southern Transitional Council, backed by the UAE, attempted some sweeping land grabs, which imploded on them quite dramatically. And the UAE are now effectively out of Yemen. The Southern Transitional Council is not what it was. Saudi Arabia's sort of allies and positions are much stronger in Yemen today than it has been in the past. So there is ground for it. Hopefully they will learn from the past. And I can't stress this enough. Sort of if and when a broader war does resume in Yemen, it will be the people of Yemen who suffer the most. They're already suffering currently. It's one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world, and things look like they could start to get a whole lot worse for them. Some other stories I've picked out from the week. Trump accused of Islamophobic attack over El Sayed to America's post. US President Donald Trump has been accused of Islamophobia, again after sharing an image contrasting himself with his wife Melania with Michigan Democratic Senate candidate Abdul and his wife. We're in the run-up to the midterm elections. Do you think we can anticipate Islamophobia becoming a sort of a more overt aspect of political campaigns? We're getting, more and more Arab Americans are running in campaigns now and elections. So do you think we're going to go back to the early 2000s?
I think Islamophobia has been part of political campaigning, whether there's a Muslim involved or no Muslim.
Okay.
I don't know if you recall when somebody told John McCain, "Oh, Obama's a Muslim." And John McCain said, "He's not a Muslim."
Yeah.
I disagree with him, but he's not a Muslim. Yeah.
So this has been the cat's out the bag a long time ago.
Okay.
I also think that Trump is a raging racist, and he doesn't even try to downplay it. Like, for example, when Mamdani became mayor of New York City, in the run up there was just so much about him being a Muslim and New York City turning into this being under Sharia law and all of this stuff. So
Trump's going to start using calling people jihadists now.
Exactly.
Somebody taught him the word jihadist.
Jihadists and communists.
He's going to start using that now because somebody told him to. Anyway, another one. Iran's Pezeshkian recently met Supreme Leader Khamenei. State media says. My question is, Supreme Leader Khamenei, is he alive? We've not seen him.
We've not seen him since March.
We've not seen. I don't think we've seen him through the entire conflict.
We haven't seen him through the conflict.
We haven't seen him through the entire conflict.
And
we heard he was injured.
Yes.
Because I think he was he in the house when his father was?
He was injured on February 28th. I believe he's alive. He's just very disfigured, and that's why he's not being shown. But yeah, there's been quite a few reports of him being in meetings. So I don't know. There's been no official footage. That's the thing.
Yeah, there has not been. Well, that might be be
Yeah.
coming.
Who knows? I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Also, Bashar al-Assad and 8 others sentenced to death in a landmark Syria trial. I think it's good to see a Syrian court holding Assad to account, but I'm also quite unsatisfied by this. I don't know how you're feeling. There were no witnesses called. The trial started in April, but it was mainly for former security chief Atif Najib, who was there in person and sentenced in person. Do we think the Syrian people deserve a sort of a proper and better accounting of the crimes in public of the Assad regime as a sort of collective healing session in court? Or maybe do you think that, the country should be moving on, putting the past to bed and concentrating on, a better future?
I think Bashar al-Assad's reign was so brutal and barbaric that nothing will actually feel satisfying to people. I mean, even with this new government, we still have so many people who are searching for their loved ones.
Yeah.
I feel like it does give people a sense of closure, but we're talking about a person who committed crimes against humanity, imprisoned tens of thousands, used chemical weapons, all of this sort of stuff. So, the country is moving very quickly towards rebuilding. And I think it would have been better, the people do deserve more. I think the process should have maybe taken a bit longer. But at the same time, I just don't think anything will feel satisfying in that regard. I think the trauma and the pain and everything he did was just far too great.
Yeah. Taufiq?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that we've seen dictators being taken down.
Yeah.
Some in the most horrible ways, sometimes meeting their end.
Yeah.
And that didn't necessarily deliver a peace or a public reconciliation. So while it's a good step for them to essentially convict him, I'm not supporting the death penalty against him, but they've passed a judgment on him.
Yeah.
At the same time, even though he's not there, he kind of has to suffer the disgrace of watching his henchmen actually be essentially executed while he's hiding. Where is it? In Moscow?
Yeah, he's playing video games in Moscow, I think, in his underpants. That's what I heard. There are a lot of good stuff on the New Arabs website this week. We've picked out a few pieces for you to read. Nadaa, what have you got?
Mine is by our US correspondent, Brooke Anderson, and it looks at reactions to Abdul Sayed's win in Michigan's Democratic Senate primary. It has lots of different interviews in it from locals. It takes a look at their reactions and what the win means to them. Also, it looks at, the message that this win sends to people, and it kind of, brings together the sense of hope that is being felt in the Arab community there in particular.
Great. Taufiq?
So my pick of the week was an opinion piece by Hani al-Masri about how the West Bank's pogroms fit into Israel's annexation plans. Okay. Essentially, this is what's not being said at the moment in the media, is that the settler rampages are not something new. It's not something that the Israeli government can't control. This is essentially an extension of the Israel's forces. The settlers set the new boundaries and the army come and formalize it. And then later on the government implement policies that make it part of Israel. So that was my pick of the week.
Thank you. I picked out Inside the Influence Machine, Israel's billion-dollar battle for US public opinion. It's from our analysis desk by Alessandra Bajic. It's a good piece on, it does touch on the recent election, but also the $100 million influence operation that Israel is spending under the Foreign Agents Registration Act in the US. 3 pieces for you. They're in the show notes and they're all worth a read. Those were the biggest stories of the week. Nadaa, Osman and Wan Taufiq, thank you for joining us. I've been your host and producer, Hugo Goodridge, and studio assistance and editing has been skillfully achieved by Sohaib el-Nahla. If you're watching us on Spotify or YouTube, hello. And if you're listening to us, Did you know you can watch us on Spotify and YouTube? Don't forget to subscribe to the New Arab Weekly wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit the bell to get notified when a new episode drops. If you have any questions that you want the panel to answer, you can leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube, or you can email us, podcast@newarab.com. That's podcast@newarab.com. We'll be back next week. Until then, stick with the New Arab for all the latest news, analysis and opinion from the region.